So it seems as though Dr. Helmut Marko will leave the Red Bull Racing organisation at the end of this season. Now, Marko has been with Red Bull Racing for a very long time. In fact, Marko was the guy that got Christian Horner into the team. They ended up meeting years before to sell, I think, a motorhome or a caravan or something like that back in the day. But after all this time, Marko is set to be leaving the team. And some people might be asking, why now? Why not years ago? Because this guy has been causing a lot of controversy in Formula One over the past few years in particular. His comments in the press and in the media have at times been downright disrespectful, to put it rather kindly. Some of the things he's even said about his own drivers like Yuki Tsunoda and Sergio Perez over the last few years. Again, it's been rather disrespectful to say the very least. But why is he leaving now? What is going to happen to him? And also, what is going to happen with Max Verstappen as well? Because Marko was one of the few people, or is one of the few people, I should say, that Max is loyal to. In fact, one of just two people, him and his dad, Jos Verstappen. That is it. So, is Max going to stick around at Red Bull? Why is Marko being sacked? Is he being sacked or is he just leaving? Let me know. So, there are two main reasons why Marko will leave Red Bull at the end of this year, the end of 2025. The first one you've probably already guessed. It's his comments that he made about Kimi Antonelli after the Qatar Grand Prix, which were again just completely brain dead. And that's pretty much what Toto Wolff, the team principal and co-owner of the Mercedes Formula One team, had to say as well. If you missed what Marko said, essentially he more than alluded to, in fact downright said, it wasn't alluded to, there was no allusion to this, it was absolutely stated that he felt as though Kimi Antonelli moved over deliberately and let Lando Norris pass him, which was just stupid. Anybody with a brain cell, even with one IQ, could see that Kimi Antonelli just made a mistake. And it wasn't even a rookie mistake. I saw a comment say somewhere, it might have been on my video, might have been on a different one, I can't find it right now unfortunately, but basically said that it wasn't even a rookie error from Kimi Antonelli. It was the closing stages of the Grand Prix. He was on really worn out tyres. Lando Norris was on fresher tyres in a faster car, going for the World Championship, and yeah, he ran wide and made a mistake. Unbelievably, he is human, he can make mistakes. There was no grand conspiracy between Mercedes and McLaren like he was alluding to there. Absolute rubbish. Unfortunately though, there are a lot of stupid people in the F1 fandom these days. Just the way it is really. It's been like this for a good few years now. And unfortunately, some people very much believed him, and then ended up making death threats towards Kimi Antonelli, who, I remind you, is 19 years of age. He is barely a man. He was 18 years old when this season started, and he's in his first season of Formula One, and he's getting death threats online. Red Bull apologised for this. Interestingly, Helmut Marko, as far as I can tell, didn't. He never apologised for his remarks, which, again, were completely unfounded, completely inappropriate, and led to Kimi Antonelli receiving death threats online. Pathetic, to say the very least. The other reason, and this is according to the Telegraph newspaper, which normally has its ears pretty close to the ground when it comes to anything to do with Red Bull, anything to do with Max Verstappen, so they're a pretty big newspaper, and they usually are accurate with these kinds of things. One of the reasons is essentially down to what Helmut Marko did with Alex Dunn. Now, Alex Dunn, for you guys who haven't been following, is a Formula 2 driver from Ireland. Now, he is currently affiliated with the McLaren Formula 1 team. However, McLaren have recently hired two other Formula 2 drivers, Leonardo Fornaroli, the champion in Formula 2, and Richard Verschoor, who, while he hasn't won the championship, has been a very consistent and experienced driver by Formula 2 standards. And that basically means that Alex Dunn is going to leave the McLaren development programme. And Marko saw an opportunity. After all, a young Irishman seems like a pretty good driver. Why not get him on Red Bull's ranks? Well, there's nothing wrong with wanting to do that. However, he ended up reaching out via email without authorization. He basically gave Dunn a contract offer to join the Red Bull driver development program, and he had no authorization from the people higher up at Red Bull, which again is really bad. And it's also because on top of that, to get him out of his contract with McLaren, it would have cost several hundreds of thousands of euros. Again, he did that without authorization. He offered a contract to Alex Dunn without any authorization from the higher ups. Anybody who works in any kind of job when there are financial deals like this being made will know that you have to receive authorization for you to use the funds to be able to do this in the first place. You have to get the okay for that, and he didn't. He just went out and did it. Now, it looks as though Alex Dunn, and we posted an article recently on the F1chronicle.com going over this, it looks as though, unfortunately for Alex Dunn, he's going to go to the Alpine development program instead. RIP to his career. But in all seriousness, yeah, that's pretty bad from Marko, to say the least. That is not very professional at all, and that is very much insubordination. I think that would probably be the term you'd use there. So, yeah, it looks pretty much certain as though Marko is going to be sacked by Red Bull at the end of this year. And it does have a feeling of changing of the guard right now. I mean, of course, Christian Horner, he was sacked mid-season in a wave of controversy. Adrian Newey left the team before this season even began. He's gone to Aston Martin, and it's going to be the team principal for Aston Martin next year in 2026, which I still don't feel that. I really don't. That's a weird one, but I hope it works out for him. And Christian Horner, meanwhile, of course, he is heavily rumoured to come back to Formula One. Some say to Aston Martin. I don't buy that personally. I think he's going to start a new team or get on board with a different team. I don't really see him going back to work with Adrian Newey, to be honest. But yeah, Marko is an interesting one, because what happens now with Max Verstappen? Does Max Verstappen stay put? Well, I think the biggest problem really with Max Verstappen was that he wasn't very happy, or at least his dad was very much not happy with Christian Horner. Obviously, Helmut Marko is a close ally of Max Verstappen, and is probably one of the reasons why Verstappen ended up signing on for a little bit longer. You also need to look at the fact that Helmut Marko is in his 80s now. He is an old guy. You know, they might well frame it as him retiring on his own accord, but the people who actually are in the know on this one are saying that he is being sacked for a number of different reasons. The deal for Alex Dunn and the claims that he made about Kimi Antonelli being the straw that broke the camel's back, the final nail in the coffin. Cynics will say that Red Bull have been looking for a reason to sack Marko ever since Christian Horner went. You know, that may well be the case, but they definitely have a few legitimate excuses if those sources are correct on those stories, and I believe they are. I could definitely believe they are. I mean, we know about the Kimi Antonelli one. That is a fact. That is enough of a sackable offence by itself. With the Alex Dunn thing as well, yeah, I think I can understand why he's gone. Will Max Verstappen leave Red Bull? Not immediately. Although I do think that if Red Bull don't give him a good car next year in 2026, which I can believe that could happen. You know, they spent a lot of time developing this car in 2025, and it worked. He got within 2 points of the World Championship. That car got a lot better. But how much resource, how much time and attention have they been paying on their 2026 car? McLaren have been putting 100% of their efforts into that car, the 26 car, since at least the halfway point of this season, maybe even before. So I would very much say that Red Bull might not produce a great car next year. And if they don't, Max Verstappen will probably leave the team. Where will he go? I reckon Aston Martin, personally. I can genuinely see that. Maybe even Mercedes. Those are the two that are always rumoured. Depends what's happening. But get your thoughts in the comments below on this one, guys. Will Marko leave Red Bull? Do you believe those two reasons that I've given? I want to hear what you have to say in the comments below. I want to hear your theories and thoughts on this, as always. Of course, he could just be retiring, but this is Formula One. This is Formula One. It's never quite as simple as the surface level story. There is always something bubbling under the surface. Like, share, comment, subscribe. If you want to see more like this, have a fantastic day wherever you are in the world today, and we'll see you very soon.